We stand at the threshold of decisions every day: a career pivot, a difficult conversation, a creative pursuit, and something stops us. Not fear exactly, not logistics, but something more subtle: the sense that we need someone else to say yes first. This video explores the psychological mechanics of waiting for permission, why we seek approval before acting on our own desires, and how this pattern shapes entire lives. From infancy, we're wired to look to caregivers for safety cues. Social referencing, when toddlers check their parents' face before approaching something novel, serves an evolutionary purpose. But what happens when this necessary developmental phase never quite resolves? Children raised in environments where autonomy was punished or dismissed, approval was conditional and unpredictable. Authority was absolute and unquestionable. Mistakes were met with disproportionate consequences, often internalized the belief that their own judgment cannot be trusted. Julian Rotter's concept of locus of control becomes relevant here. Some develop an external orientation, believing outcomes are controlled by outside forces rather than their own agency. Carol Dweck's research on praise reveals how good girl-boy feedback can inadvertently teach children to perform for approval rather than act from internal motivation. The child learns, "I am good when others say I am good." Anxious attachment patterns often manifest as chronic permission seeking. The anxiously attached individual has learned that connection is maintained through vigilance, by anticipating others' needs and suppressing their own. Every autonomous action feels like a potential rupture. Pete Walker's work on complex PTSD identifies fawning as a survival response. For those with histories of relational trauma, gaining approval before acting isn't just preference, it's perceived safety. The question, "Is this okay?" becomes a preemptive strike against anticipated anger or abandonment. Permission seeking is sustained by several thinking patterns. Mind reading. They probably think this is a bad idea. Catastrophizing. If I do this without asking, something terrible will happen. Emotional reasoning. I feel uncertain, therefore I shouldn't act. Approval addiction. Needing validation to feel worthy. In our professional life, the employee who has the solution but waits for the manager to suggest it. The entrepreneur who delays launching until every mentor approves. The endless cycle of just one more opinion before moving forward. In our relationships, it is the partner who asks, "Is it okay if I?" for basic autonomous decisions. The friend who won't set boundaries without consensus. The parent who defers their own judgment to books, experts, or other parents constantly. In our creative work, it is the writer with drawers full of unpublished work, waiting for the right time or someone to anoint them. The artist who won't call themselves an artist until achieving external validation. Stephen Pressfield calls this resistance. Often it wears the mask of seeking permission. In our own personal identity, it shows up as the person who cannot name their preferences without first polling others. Those who feel their desires are only legitimate if approved by authority figures. The persistent question, who am I to? The first hidden cost is deferred living. While waiting for permission, life happens anyway. Opportunities close, time pass. The next hidden cost, resentment and self-abandonment. Harriet Lerner's work on anger reveals that chronic self-silencing breeds resentment toward others for not giving permission, but more deeply toward ourselves for not taking it. Another hidden cost, stunted development. Autonomy, according to self-determination theory, is a fundamental psychological need. When consistently unmet, we see increased anxiety, depression, and sense of meaninglessness. We cannot mature into our own authority if we're always outsourcing it. Further hidden cost, the permission paradox you get caught in. The cruelest irony, people often resent us for asking permission. They sense the burden of our displaced responsibility. Relationships suffer not from our autonomy but from our refusal to claim it. Recognize that each of our brains have an approval circuit. Neuroimaging studies show that social approval activates the ventral striatum, the same reward center stimulated by food and money. For some, this reward becomes so central that decision-making circuits cannot activate without anticipating it. Your brain also has an override function. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex integrates emotional and social information into decisions. In permission seekers, this region may become overactive with social threat signals, essentially vetoing action before it begins. Beyond our brains, our social conditioning works against us. Research in gender permission consistently shows women are socialized toward communal decision-making and face harsher consequences for autonomous action perceived as aggressive or selfish. The permission-seeking pattern is not gender-specific, but it is gendered. Cultural context matters as well. In collectivist societies, group consensus is valued and functional. The pathology emerges when the permission-seeking is rooted in fear rather than genuine interdependence. Finally, our hierarchical structures play a factor too. Hierarchical institutions, certain workplaces, religious organizations, traditional family systems, can either foster healthy respect for expertise or create learned helplessness where adults feel childlike. The first step is metacognition, catching yourself in the act of waiting. Notice the somatic experience, the pause, the urge to reach for your phone, the rehearsing of how you'll phrase the question. The second step is reframe the permission seeking as input. There's wisdom in consultation. The shift is from, I cannot act without approval, to, I will gather information and then I will decide. You're collecting data, not petitioning for your right to exist. The third step is practice small autonomies. Start with low-stakes decisions. Order what you actually want at a restaurant without asking, does that sound good? Choose a Saturday activity without consensus building. These micro-practices build the muscle of self-trust. The fourth step is build up your internal authority. Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication offers a framework. Identify your needs, separate them from strategies for meeting them, make requests rather than demands. You develop an internal compass calibrated to your values, not others' approval. Finally, recognize this. No one is coming to give you permission to live your life. This isn't pessimism, it's liberation. The authority you're seeking externally has always been internal, simply obscured by old protective patterns that once served you, but now constrain you. Your questions need to shift from, may I, to, how shall I? From, is this allowed? To, is this aligned? You already have permission. You've always had it. The work now is learning to recognize that permission as your birthright, not a prize to be won through perfect behavior. You are allowed to take up space, to want things, to make decisions that others might not understand or approve of, to be wrong, to course correct, to trust yourself. The permission was granted the moment you arrived here. By virtue of being human, you are authorized to live. If this resonates with you, and you want to go deeper and breaking free of your limited patterns, join the Change Mindset community. It's for the professionals brave enough to question the old playbook. The Change Mindset community isn't for everyone. It is for those who feel the shift and know they need to adapt before disruption decides for them. Inside, we don't just talk about change. We train for it. Neuroscience-backed tools and real-world leadership coaching. But here's the truth. Not everyone gets in. This is for people serious about reinvention, not just inspiration. Subscribe to this channel for powerful insights on navigating uncertainty, leading yourself with clarity, and building a mindset built for change. Then visit www.changemindset.co to start your free 21-day journey. Change waits for no one.